Today, I'm very privileged to introduce my guest, who is not only my colleague from a long time ago, but he's an entrepreneur and he's doing cool stuff in tech entrepreneurship space now. So what's happening is Nicolas Robbe, who has absolutely accomplished career as a technology executive leader, I would describe engineer, lots of different things that Nicolas done in his career. But then he started the company, and this is Augmented Reality company, which I learned about recently, and this is the coolest thing. So what it does, company Hoverlay, is producing digital twins, correct me here, Nicolas, if I'm completely wrong, for products, people, for anything you want to create augmented reality for, to share to the world. And this is fantastic. Nicolas, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, because the conversation I wanted to have today, Sogo Talks, is about business and tech talks. Subscribe, by the way, if you're watching this, subscribe, because we need more opinions, we need comments, we need even topics that people talk about, so I can bring great speakers and satisfy that demand. But point is that I am privileged enough to work and to know so many talented, bright, inspiring people that it's pleasure every week to bring someone who I know or who knows me and share the stories, because we develop, we evolve in life. And that's the most beautiful thing that happens. So Nicolas, talking to you about tech entrepreneurship in 2020. You started the company about 4 years ago. So please talk to me. How did you come up with the idea? That's it. That's a question.
Well, so first and foremost, the web as we know it today, I mean, is 30 years old. So I think it's sometimes we tend to forget that, that the kind of the basis for what we use every day on the web, the construct, the UI, the type of experience that we have is really something that is now getting old. And it was actually designed at a time where, there were no concept of mobility, this idea that you could have, this form of computer in your pockets, all the time. The fact that not only this would be a very powerful computer, a computer would be most powerful than anything you could dream of at that time, but also that it has sensors that are connected to it, that it has a camera attached to it, that this camera can actually function with the computer itself. So it can be processing, you can use that computational power to process images in whatever this camera sees in real time. All those basic kind of elements, that we all used to today, they didn't exist when the web was created 3 years ago. And so what we're starting to realize is that if we were to create the web today, we would think about experiences and sharing products and people experiencing things in a very different way. We would take advantage of this capability, this hardware that's available to create this new form of experiences. And so in a way, we're really, I feel very strongly, we are the beginning of a new phase in terms of digital experiences, similar to where we were when the web started. And this is, again, a conjunction of factors, but the capabilities that are available today are just underutilized, and you can bring that together in a new form of experiences that can take everything we've learned from the web and at the same time, allow very powerful experiences to be created much superior to anything we can experience over the web today. So that's kind of one angle to all this, which is, kind of the tech aspect. And, like most entrepreneurs, I mean, you have to start with, technology disruption. You have to have a feel for what's happening, what's changing, what's available today or, tomorrow that wasn't available yesterday. And that opens up opportunity on the technical front. But that's only half of the equation. The other half of the equation is, okay, it's all great, but what problem does that solve? What does it replace? What does it enable you to do? And, when it comes to that side of the equation, this is really where I think what's happening now with people realizing that we may have to deal with a new normal where with social distancing, with, even climate change in some aspect, it's going to change the way we think about work and about interacting and going to stores, and there's a whole range of industries, and segments that are going to be affected. Give you an example, music concerts, the music industry, museum, theaters, this goes on and on. Everywhere you go to actually entertain yourself, educate yourself, have a cultural experience, it's hard to foresee how those places can reopen in the short term and be successful with the same model they had before. And so you have, on the one hand, a technology that's becoming very mature, very ready to create experiences, deliver experiences in the way that the web can't. And you have a set of industries that are being shattered. I mean, really, they're completely destroyed by what's going on right now. And it's unclear how they can continue to deliver these experiences in the current environment. And so I think this brings together two solution to a problem that is a real deep, problem with a lot of financial implication, artistic, cultural implications. And so that's this equation that we're now trying to bring together to make a long answer to a quick question that you had.
Fantastic. No, this is fantastic. This is the exactly angle, because first of all, when entrepreneurs say, I just wake up in the morning and I figured, why don't I do this? You don't invest years of your time and your family experience and everything around you, right, into just some random idea. So I do understand that you are right on point in a way that this changed everything, okay, what we're living through right now. But your business idea not only lived through all this, but it's actually thriving, it providing only more opportunities. So that's what I call vision, right? This is what I call, yeah. So how do you go about this now? Because of course, the idea of clients and the idea of experiences you're delivering 2 months ago, it was probably different from what you're thinking about today. Mm-hmm.
Right, and if anything, it has accelerated a great deal. I think, and maybe that's more of a general statement, when you're entering a space, a market that has not formed, there are markets that have formed. Mm-hmm. The database market, the cloud, the players, the technology stacks, the buying powers, and who buys what, where, mm-hmm. All that is now well known and established. So you play in a certain way because the rules are set, and that's what also makes those markets kind of accelerate, because everybody knows, there's a certain level of comfort in understanding that, if I'm going on that path, I've got options, and it's a safer path. And then you have market that have not formed. So the market that haven't formed, you don't know where the players are, you don't know where things break between players. There's no standard. And so it's a very different dynamic.
Who will lose, right? Who will win? Who will lose? What are the opportunities? And yeah, exactly. It's emerging market, right? Everything is emerging
market, and there's this tipping point where this market now has formed, in a sense that there are a set of players, a set of capabilities are understood. There's almost like a reference architecture that everybody agrees to, as far as how the pieces fit together in the broader spectrum, from content to infrastructure to hardware. Everybody kind of knows how those things fit together, and you cannot apply the same rules in that market, in how you go about doing things, as a market that has formed. It's a very different dynamic. And in a market that hasn't formed, really it's a market of building IP. And what I mean by that, and it's often where I see people being confused. The IP is not about it's not just about what you can produce that's new and novel and cool. And I think there's a lot of that in the tech world that's about finding new things, finding new patents on things and stuff. Okay, this is all important, but for me, the most important IP that you can develop at those stages is the IP about the problems, the customer problems. Because if you're, at that point, the problems haven't formed themselves. The customer don't even know they really have a problem, because you haven't exposed to them what the future is going to look like. And therefore, either they're going to be threatened by something, or they're going to have to do something. They're going to have an opportunity to compete. And the problem becomes that they don't have it. And if they had it, they would be, you know, we transform it. It would give them something to do. So that understanding of what is the problem you're solving is a tremendous value that I think is under appreciated, I think, by sometimes, you know, entrepreneurs, you know, where again, a lot of focus is, I do this, I do that, you know, and you want to kind of invert the subject and say, you can do this, you can do that. And when you're able to say that with a certain level of resonance, that someone shakes their head and says, yes, that's my problem. I understand what you're enabling me to do as you know, as a potential user of this. This is where you can move to now a business, you know, something that you can repeat. And as long as you keep hammering, you know, I do this, I do that, then you don't have a business, you have technology, you know. And when you're able to switch that to kind of, you know, sometimes what I call inverting the subject, when you say, I can do this, then how would you say that starting with you can do that? You know, what would be the sentence start with you that says the same thing? I think you've started to get your kind of your sea legs in this very shaky, very you know, in this market that where you can have any certainty outside of the customer market, you know, the market and the problems you're trying to solve. That's really where the certainty, I think, is
Absolutely. And I think what you're talking about, you know, it's empathy. It's empathy with your customer. It's kind of, you know, what product-centric business strategy look like, right? Me, right? I have the best product in the world. It doesn't work anymore. So you have to sympathize and you have to have some empathy to your client. So in your platform, in your space, this is fantastic because I understand I can create a digital twin of myself, right? And of course, it's you know, expanding it to artists, to singers, to all the performers out there, right? Opportunity there. So what's your marketing strategy, kind of? How do you want the world to know what you're doing?
So our strategy is twofold. There is a, you know, sometimes use this expression, you have to nail it before you scale it. So the first part of the strategy is try to nail these market spaces where we know we're addressing a problem. And that's a lot of, you know, you talk to early adopters, people who all of a sudden start to see what you're trying to do. They reflect on what you have, they help you shape the vision and so on. Once you've nailed it, then this is where the real marketing start, which is the scaling. You take this sliver of problems that you've solved and you know it has value and people are willing to pay for it, and there's urgency and there's all the right factors, and then you repeat. And you're trying to find those people that are in the same situation where you can actually engage with them with a problem statement and any solution to their problem. And I would say today, I mean, as a, you know, you have to be very innovative on the marketing side too. You know, there's a lot of innovation to be done there. I mean, more than people realize. I mean, it's not just about, you know, buying ads on TV or, you know, spending your investors' money. You know, it's there's a lot of cleverness that can come from how you market. You know, and so I think this is there's not like one recipe. My advice would be try to think about marketing as engineering in a way, in a sense that it needs to have to be creative, it needs to be repeatable, it needs to be solid, you know, as a workflow from end to end, so that it's a system, you know, versus thinking of marketing like sometimes we as engineers initially think, which is, you know, it's spending money doing creative stuff. You know, that's not what it is. I mean, it is a lot more engineering like that people realize. It's
almost engineering, right? It's engineering how the world is going to perceive what you're doing, right? Absolutely. And without your customers, right, your product is not worth much, or anybody else's product for that matter, right? So I'm so happy to hear those things that you thought it all through. So marketing, it's a natural extension to what you as CEO have to think about, not just excel of your product, right? Mm-hmm.
And also, you know, marketing has become a tech heavy you know, segment. I mean, it's hard to, and so that has, you know, the on the one side means that you can do a lot of things very quickly, but on the other side, everybody can do a lot of things very quickly. I mean, look at social media. You know, can you truly emerge just by posting things on Twitter and Instagram? The answer is no. I mean, that's just not, it's saturated already. There are tools to automate posts. You have to do it. You have to do some of it, but you have to be smarter than that. You have to find ways to engage people in a way that is different. I'll give you an example, for instance. So we're working now with the Greenway in Boston, which is one of very forward-looking park downtown Boston that is doing augmented reality exhibits, and they use AR as a way to engage with the public, to do public art, you know, new form of public art. And they have a channel called the Greenway, Bring the Greenway Home, especially for this time of, you know, where everybody's stuck at home. So every week they unveil a piece of public art in augmented reality that you can bring to your backyard, to your home, in your own context as a user, and take a photo and tweet it back, or, you know, put it on Instagram. And so you become part, as a consumer, part of that story. You're asked to participate, and by doing so, you know, the Greenway brings them something new and exciting to do, and now they're participating into themselves become forward-looking people, or bring this crazy augmented reality public art, you know, installations into their own selected environment. And so the result of that creativity is shared between the participant and the creator of the content, the Greenway, and the artist that they're working with. And so there's a very clever way to, you know, instead of you tweeting about, okay, okay, we do this, we do that, on the Greenway, is to let people, to engage people so that they now take part of that and kind of spread the word. So again, it's just one of many examples and many smart things you can do to improve your marketing. That I think is you know, is one way to approach that.
Absolutely. And I look to entrepreneurs actually to help artistic and performance art community, not just in this reality, but in general in the economy, even that we had a month ago, 2 months ago, and especially now, because I live in town who is like thriving artistic and theatrical and you name it community. And of course, you know, many artists will appreciate the opportunity to be kind of in the virtual, in the augmented reality world. That's where future is. So as much as we love our physical world, and we're not going to change it for anything, but this is augmenting our reality world now, right? So that's right. Just so enriching. Yeah.
Yeah, augmented reality, virtual reality, all this is going to blend. And you know, I mean, if you look at again, go back to the web and, you know, the world of laptops and phones, and you look at the players, Google, obviously Apple, you know, Samsung, and all those players are at a scale now where they need to open up very large, massive markets. You know, they're not looking at incremental improvements. So this is, you know, again, if you're, you know, kind of thinking in terms of entrepreneurship, you know, into markets, you have to look at what are the hard trends. What are the things that you know are true? And what are the things that you maybe think are true, or you have a hunch, or you're, you know, and you kind of blend all that together to try to have an idea of the future. And one thing that is hard trend is that those big players need to create new multi-billion-dollar markets. I mean, that's just the nature of being a, you know, publicly traded company at that level. You have to be able to open up large markets. And so if you look at some of the work being done by Apple and Google around ARCore and ARKit, the commitment they've taken as if more of a foundational layer, you look at some of the early prototype of glasses that exist out there, from Microsoft HoloLens to you know, even VR headsets like Oculus Quest now, that is a PC-less, you know, headset that you put on that works right away, that is absolutely amazing. And you look at Apple and Google, and it's almost a given that they will enter that market. They will come up with the technology being, you know, almost there, the potential being so phenomenally big as far as what you could do with this, that it's a given that they're going to have good hardware-based solution, and glasses that you can put on are going to resemble, going to be a headset that like regular, cool looking glasses that give you those experiences. And that's, I would say 24 months from now, 2 years. And so as soon as, you can go to the Apple store and buy for, $500, a pair of glasses that give you, art, give you the ability to see art in your space before you buy. You see furniture, you can see, concerts in your home, and performers coming in and performing, in a very different setting, in a different format, where you feel very personally connected because they're in your space, they're in your living room, they're in your bedroom, you're opening up a multi-billion-dollar market of content, of hardware, of software, apps, and so on and so forth. So these are things that are, you don't exactly know how it's going to happen, but it's a fairly easy, predictable path when you consider the financial dynamics and the pressure that are on those players and the reality of the technology. So I think for artists, this is, and for parks and cities, this is the web that they actually need. It's not the web that we have today. The 30 years old web is a very good platform for sharing information. It's a very good platform for transacting. It is not a great platform for creating emotions
and experiences, right? It's really not there yet. Yeah.
The best you have is Netflix and YouTube. That's why there's so much video content, because we all, we gravitate toward experiences that make us feel things, because we take them in much more easily than reading content. And so you've seen the web already gravitating toward this, but this is just compared to what those experiences are, this is just a, very primitive form of experience compared to what we can already see is going to be the set of experiences you're going to have in AR and VR. And so seeing this trend that as consumers, as people, we tend to want to consume content this way because it's frictionless, requires less effort. You can take a lot more. You can use your lizard brain to get information in versus having to think and process. It's a very rich form of, we utilize our brain better when we consume this form of content. You know that there is demand, that there is financial pressure from the bigger players, and that artists, and just to go back to my point, that artists and parks and those places, I think they don't have much in the web, today. It's if you're a park, you don't have much transact about. I mean, it's like, if you're an artist, yeah, you're trying to sell art, but really, you go to an art gallery store and it looks like buying detergent on Amazon. It's the same now. Everything is unified. All stores look the same. They all on Shopify or WooCommerce, so they all have this beautiful, designs and with a buy button and add to cart and this and that. But if you're buying art, you're not buying detergent. I mean, you're buying something that's first and foremost an emotional purchase. It's something you want to see, assess aesthetically. You want to see if it fits your space, how you connect with it in your environment, and because all we know is the web, the WooCommerce and the Shopify, that's how we sell it. We put it there, put photos and put dimensions, and, just like you put features and photos of anything you buy. So I think there's this new web that I think is going to benefit a class of players that have kind of been force fitted into the web that we have, but are going to be this new, kind of this new engine behind these new experiences, because there's pent-up demand for them to have more capabilities to express themselves, to share emotion, to share emotions with the public. And I think this is what this phase is going to be enabling them to do. So I would expect that a lot of the innovation and the drive is going to come from these segments of the industries that are not necessarily very active on the web today, or very not benefiting from the web that much. They are going to see this and say, okay, that's the web for us. that's the kind of things we need to invest in.
Absolutely, and when you mention the big players who are creating markets, they are creating technology that, smaller entrepreneurs benefit from later, So please touch on that point, because of course, I just talked with my other colleague about GraphQL. And that's how Facebook came up, right, with query language that's now open source. So interesting enough, right? I'm sure the big players, they have funding, they have talent, right? They have intent to create something that will benefit others. So talk to me, please, about opportunity for new startups and tech entrepreneurs, as a result of that.
Yeah, I think in that space, you have basically two or three plays. I think there is a pure tech play. The big players, they're going to acquire technology on, anything from computer vision to how you sense spaces, all kind of devices for tactile control, how you interact, voice commands and things of that sort that exist today in some form, but in not necessarily very kind of, they could be improved for these specific experiences. And so you have one class of entrepreneurs that can solve specific problems around, how you recognize hand gestures, and being very, very good at that. And, their companies are focused on just that problem. So if I put my hands in front of me and I make, how quickly can I detect what I'm trying to communicate? Because that's going to be the form, if the computer is on your head, then, there is no touching your face. It's just, through gestures and voice. So things like that. So there's one category there that's very vibrant. There's a lot of innovation. There's a second class, which is that, it's how you apply that to specific problem areas. And so architects, construction artists, furniture company. So trying to specialize yourself in a vertical that will need to have some form of access to that technology, but it's not going to have the skills, certainly not quickly enough to, when these things kind of take on. And where the big players like the Apple, Google, they're not close enough to these markets to be able to provide good enough solution. They provide infrastructure, they provide a platform, but they're just not going to provide a solution for contractors or redoing your bathroom floor to be able to show you, what tiles you should put on. They're not going to do that, but they're going to provide, the platform for companies to innovate in all those, almost infinite number of verticals that will need or that could employ that technology. And then I think there's a third, and I think that's what people kind of refer to the killer apps, of this technology. Every time you have disruptions like this, you have new platforms that emerge that, the key players don't necessarily see, or they're not necessarily interested in, in investing too early. And one or two or three companies emerge as, a new collaboration platform for work, how people collaborate through glasses. New form of kind of social networks that would be linked to space. New forms of advertising.
Right? Immersive social network, right? That you're really part of the group, right? Not through the screen, but really next to each other. Yeah.
Exactly. Where instead of me saying something putting something on your Facebook wall, I can put something on your kitchen wall. Physical, virtual. I'm going to post on walls, but on physical walls that I'm opening up my wall to you and you're opening the wall to me, and I can send you, things are different because it's not this instant, sending message. It's probably something that's a bit more thoughtful because, I'm going to send a message before you go to work or before something important, your son is having some kind of a, big day at school or something, and so a new form of communication that emerges almost, not necessarily, it's kind of a try and error, but I think you're going to have some of those emerging. The next Facebook, the next, there will be companies like that, Twitter and so on, that are going to emerge out of this. We just don't know what they are. And somebody's going to hit, a form of communication that makes sense. And for whatever reason, sometimes it's pure luck, sometimes it's, you're the right partnership, the right, it could be a number of reasons that takes on. And then you have the next platform, the next Facebook that only exists because of that particular environments that you've this new form of interaction that are enabled. So you're going to see these three things, tech investments, pure, very hardware centric, low level algorithms, image recognition. Then you have, people especially in the vertical, very good at solving a problem for a specific industry. And again, everybody loves those guys because they enhance the platform. They create the draw for, the big Apple, Google, Facebook. I mean, for people to go and buy more of the foundational pieces. And then you have the new Facebook is going to come out of that. And
you know what? You just draw the future, which I did not know going into this interview today. This is exactly what other entrepreneurs do. Not only you dreaming and you seeing what's real, what's not real ahead of us, but you're educating all of us on what's ahead. This is fantastic. I'm having fabulous time. Thank you for this. So it is immersive. Let's call it immersive Facebook when it's instead of line of text, right? Or even picture or even video, it will be complete person-to-person interaction. Wow, something to think about.
And it's something that is hard to put in words. I think you kind of, for everybody watching this, I think they're probably, the first day you put a headset on your head that is lightweight, that is like, like pretty much like a phone, like a consumer device, and you put it on and your brain gets completely tricked in believing you're somewhere else, or that there are things there that are not there, and you see how rewarding and how stimulating this is. That's where everything I described to you is going to start to make sense. That this is about to happen. And again, I mean, things happen sometimes, like I was saying before, they happen on, it hasn't formed, so it might, kind of structure itself differently. But what is clear is that there is a need for this. And I would say these past 2 months, if anything, have put so much pressure on places that you experience in the physical world that have been completely shut down and need to exist, deserve to exist. Artists, performances, museums, travel destinations, I mean, it's all kind of places that historical places, I mean, festivals, I mean, it's that alone is a significant market that will need this and will create an instant draw. And I think people will want those experiences, and creativity is going to come in terms of what are those experiences? Is it a copy of the physical experience, or is it something new? But these are the kind of environments where you can see, when everybody gets out of the anxiety phase that we're in right now, that there will be a new trajectory that everybody's going to draw. Everybody who's affected by this in this way is going to try to now take that curve. And I would bet that the timing is going to be perfect with whatever Apple and all the players that come up with hardware was, because it's going to be fresh in everybody's mind, and they're going to look at this and be like, that's it. Think about sports.
Oh yeah, we did not talk about sports. I know how the fans are suffering now, like really physically suffering, not being able to see their favorite games and players. Absolutely.
So the things, there's a lot of that I think is we're still kind of in shock,
Mm-hmm.
And usually after a while, things settle, and we find our senses, and then look at some disruptive tech. And again, there's a lot of disruption. Other areas are important to what's going on right now, but in this specific area, I think there is tech that can really help that industry to survive and in fact thrive in a new way, with new business models, with kind of more of that experiential form of content that is harder also to steal, and to digitize and put for free on sites and everything. So it gives more room for artists, it gives more room for creators to be in control at least for a while, to be in a space that is safe from the standpoint of them being able to make money out of their art and out of the creations. And I feel like these are industries that will propel this.
Absolutely. And the coolest thing is that technology will be driver to what other industry or other players can accomplish in their worlds. Okay, so that's fantastic. So digital transformation is not just a word, it's really reality. And hey, coming up right with new platforms, new technology, it's going to help across the industry lines. So that's kind of hopefully pull us off right from where we are today, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and I think
yeah,
there is so much. Again, it's. I know that if you haven't tried those things, it's difficult to conceptualize, but the ability to transport yourself somewhere else, in term, even in areas like mental illnesses and, all kind of areas like that, dealing with stress, education, putting yourself in an environment where you can completely immerse yourself in an environment that is so real that you can now be fully focused on the learning task again. So you're using the brain for what it's good at, which is taking in situations and using your, what makes up more than 90% of your brain, which is, is the, needs to be trained, can be trained, so that things become more of a reflex. We're already saying quarterbacks, using VR to train themselves in certain situations to react, to train the brain to react without facing the risk of injuries by playing, so you can have set plays, and it's so realistic now that you can, repeat certain movements and kind of, reinforce your muscle memory, but without having to incur the physical toll on your body. So again, think about training people on how to deal with certain situation at the border, at the when somebody comes in, and how do I react, and how do I treat, it could completely transform these segments as well, and it will. And so I think it's, where does it start? The web didn't start to revolutionize everything at once. It started by specific areas, and then it moved to the next one because people start to realize that it can be applied to them as well.
I like the future you're describing, because I myself not all for robotics, okay? I'm not, what is it, trusting robot to cut my hair yet, all right? But the future that you're describing, it's some kind of appealing, because the intention is to bring people together to kind of, right, make them achieve more. And I'm all for that. All right, so that's not scary at all. Okay, I want to live with my family. I don't want to live with futuristic robots, but at the same time, right. Yeah. So
and it's a world of where the potential for creativity is immense compared to the web. The web today is tremendously creative compared to before the web. It's like it's amazing, but it's almost like bounded by the four corners of your screen and what you can do, and the pixel, and it's and also we've developed some reflexes where we filter things, we're not paying as much attention, we're not surprised as much. When you move into this new form of content, you're utilizing your entire body. The physicality of the experience is something that is hard to describe, that you don't really have on the web. It's not a physical experience. When you're in those environments, it is a physical experience. It is also an experience that you have in a given context. So you're watching, you're looking around you, and things appear in context. So this augmentation of your experience also creates connections in your brain that you cannot do when you're on a screen. When you're on a screen, you're on a screen. You're not in your room anymore. It's very hard to kind of connect unless you're searching for information and stuff like that. Maybe but it's very different if objects around you have content. If your kitchen table tells you something, when you wake up in the morning and there's something on there. If you place content physically in different spaces and it's stored there, and that's where you find it. So instead of remembering which folder you put files, you remember on which shelf you put files. Which is again more utilizing our own cognitive abilities. Think about phone numbers. You want to call someone, or you want to, you have a little corner for this person, the corner for that person. You can go get, just use your glasses, and then you can only go to the kitchen, okay, I know I put it there, and boom, voila, you press a button, you see all the information for that topic. So in terms of, again, these are the things that are exciting about this, because there's a lot of creativity. It's very empowering for the user. I'm sure there's all kind of dark sides to this, obviously.
Exactly, because this is exciting and stimulating, right? So our brain will not work less, hopefully, because if we don't use that muscle, it's not gonna serve us good. So, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Right. I think this, again, it's like anything else. It will need to be to have some form of oversight, or a very strong ethic on the part of the companies that are going to be in charge of this, because the risks are there. I mean, for abuse, for, there's a lot of things there that needs, and obviously the regulators are going to be, I think they're starting to, they're just beginning to kind of grapple what's there today, the Facebook, and then
Yep.
this,
but it's up to us, right? It's our responsibilities to surround ourselves with life that we want to build for us and our children in a way that nobody takes away responsibilities, right? So
that's right. It's at the end of the day, I mean, that's the only way it's going to work, is if everybody is able to self, regulate. And I think companies in particular, I think companies, and you see it today too, I think there is an awakening in a way of the social role of companies, where they're not just deferring on the government. They take their responsibilities for taking care of their employees, finding ways for them to work, helping them navigate these difficult times. And I think I think it's an opportunity for companies to assume a bigger role, and maybe put the cursor a little bit less, on the quarterly returns, and maybe more toward kind of social responsibility, and emphasize maybe more their role, and be almost forced to do that, but kind of leave the cursor a bit more on that side. And draw a line between, or at least we'll see a difference between those companies that have, and I think the ones that haven't. So
fantastic. Nicolas, this is a conversation I was hoping we're going to have, because we did touch business a little bit. We touched tech. We touched inspirational ideas. We touched our future in some way and form. It's not going to be exactly the same as we described, but this is enormously enriching for me. Thank you. Thank you so much. I do hope you will find time to come back to Soga Talks a few months, maybe down the road, and share what is it, your journey, how you continue, and what is it, new findings that you,
absolutely. I'll be happy to.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so very much. I will make sure with all my abilities that as many people as have access to Soga Talks, their subscribers, their not subscribers who just watching this talks from time to time, I will try to advertise, I will market this conversation, and I wish I was all the best to your colleagues and your company, Hoverlay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and stay safe, and hope to continue the conversation sometimes.
That's the goal. Thanks so much.